It's still raining outside, but the lightning stopped, so we're kind of back in business. Time to cut these down to the right height now. So I know this is the height I want, so I'm just going to set the bandsaw up, which is going to make it so that just fits in there, and then that'll be the right distance, and I'll just cut this off. So I'm preserving the bottom and cutting the top off. Okay, so it's letting me in, but then it's scraping. So that seems perfect. Alright, so last time I was talking with you, we had just clamped up this side and for gluing. So it's the next day now. I let it dry overnight. I removed the clamps and then I have glued now and clamped on this side. I'm so glad that I kept these offcuts because it's made a huge difference to gluing it up. That's something I hadn't run into before, so anyway, I'm glad that I kept them. So it's been about 4 hours or so I think I've had it on. Clear, take these off and put them in a safe place. There. We've got our paper on. Take off that. And you can see where it's touching the wax paper, the glue is still wet. That was the case even this morning when I took the other bit off. The paper obviously stops any air getting into there. When I say obviously, I'm pretty sure that's what happens. It stops air getting in there, and so the glue doesn't really dry where the baking paper in this case, or wax paper, is. But we can see anyway that that wax paper, just comes straight off. So it's worth using it. It was just an idea I thought of. I thought, it stops stuff in the oven from sticking, so the glue probably won't stick to it either. And since I had that thought, I've seen about, 5 videos where I've seen people building guitars and actually doing it. And I thought, okay, so I didn't have an original idea. So another picture again. Almost. Maybe if I start over here, we'll probably end up in the picture. Anyway, that'll do for now. I've got this, and I've checked the angle, and I've transferred that onto a piece of thin board, which I'm thinking of using as a bit of a template out here. It's only 3mm thick. I've got the angle here. I ended up sanding this edge just a little bit more because I thought about it, and if anything, I want this little template to err on the side of being too small, because that means that if I cut the hole in the board slightly too small, I can always just sand it and file it and get it to fit perfectly. If I cut the hole out of the board too big, I'm in trouble. So I've now made this template where it is, I think, a whisker too small on this side. So that should mean that I can do this side, stick it on, do the other side, and we should be slightly over. I'll have to sand it and fix it a little bit and then put it in, and we should be right. So that's what I'm going for. And I line and make sure this line was here, and then I just trace that line there, and that's what we've got there. So that I can match this surface a bit better. Centre line I've drawn. I'll put that there. I am exactly on that line, centre line there, as far as I can tell, and that's what we're looking at. So you can see a hairline here, and which I don't mind. That's fine. Even I was hoping to glue this on, basically nowish, because I've got to go out and I want to get it glued on so it can dry while I'm out. But I've drawn on the back here where you can see the body shape, and I can't get clamps close to it on this side, so I'm going to need to cut pretty close to it along the body line so I can reach in with clamps and clamp it down, because this board is still a little curved, and I need to clamp it down hard to get the drying position. I may even try and iron this board a little bit with a bit of heat to try and dry this side out to try and get the curve back in. Alright, we're going to glue this part of the body on. I have done some test clamping just to test it out, and the board's fairly flat but not super flat. When I do this side, it causes this side to come up a little bit when I clamp this side down. I have to have a clamp here to keep this part down against in here. Then I can clamp that side, but when I clamp the two edges, the middle still pops up. So what I've worked out is that I'm going to put this piece of wood along the edge, and I'm going to clamp it right there using my long steel clamp. Put another clamp here, and I'll probably have another one here, but that should then help press the middle part of this down, because I can put a clamp here, but then I can't put one there. I think it's more important to have it here, and I'll use this piece of wood to help keep that pressed down. So anyway, I have used some denatured alcohol on the timber and on the surface of this to remove any grease or anything like that, and I think we are ready to rock and roll. overnight. Hello! So I've been working on this board, doing the cutout for this edge here. It's gone really well, fits in quite well. Problem I've had though is this board, as you can see, it's got a whopping great curve in it. So overnight it curved really badly. Just seems to vary. Sometimes I come in here and this board is straight, other times it's curved. Today it's probably more curved than I have ever seen it. Alright, remember how bent the board was when I showed it to you a minute ago? Look at that. How did we do it? Just had my iron on here and just ironing the convex side, so the side that was up, just ironing it, and that seems to take the moisture out or dry it, and then the moisture makes it tighten up, so this side tightens up and pulls the board straight. So hopefully now we can actually just go and glue this on. A bit of luck. Turn the iron off. It's a bit windy, apologise for the noise out here. Now that this is fairly flat, I've put it on, and this gap, I had a little bit of a gap here, it's closed up, which is great. It's looking good here. The only thing is this central gap has opened up a little bit more. I'm looking along the edge here and I think that this is now sloping like this. It's angled on this edge, and so it's leaving a gap at the top. So I'm just going to try and sand this edge with this sort of a straight edge here and sand it on a little bit of a slope so that the widest part is at the top, and hope that that closes it up for us. Alright, so I just cut that out on the jigsaw. I just basically put it on there, trace the line around the back and cut out around that line. Oh, childproof bottles, great. Just rub some alcohol on the timber to get any sort of waxy residues off it, especially the spotted gum, but I think most hardwoods can be a bit oily. You want to make sure there's no oil to wreck the gluing process. Whoops, didn't actually mean to drop that into the glue. Good, here we go. Okay, that looks pretty good actually. I forgot to set this distance, so hopefully it's okay. Just make sure that's right. Yeah, that looks right. We're going to leave that overnight, I think, and it's only about, it's about 3:30 in the afternoon now, so we'll probably come out and pull those off maybe tomorrow morning or something like that. It's the next day. It's just stopped raining, so I've come into the shed and we're going to have a look at it. Put it by hand. And that one. Okay, there we go. How's it looking? Well, we've got glue everywhere, so it's hard to tell, but this is a little bit higher than this at the moment, which is making it look like there's a line there, but I don't think that line is actually that bad. Looks good here. Too much glue here to really tell, but at the moment this looks very good just here. This side is slightly higher than this side, but the joint looks very good. There's a little tiny gap up this end. Look, looks like it started raining out there. Yeah, this timber's higher than this. There's the rain. You won't be able to hear me talk now. Not that you probably want to. Yeah, it's a little bit of hail. Stop the water coming in. I know most people do this with a pull, but right now it just feels easier to use. I think because this is, the glue's a little bit soft still, it feels easier to use with a push at the moment. I'm going to have a go at this just with the file to start with, going at these bits that tore out and all that, and this bit as well. I'm too scared to put a rasp on it because of what it might do to this timber, so I'll use a file, and I've got some 6-degree sandpaper as well that I might end up using if the file's too slow. I found the file was good to get rough stuff off, but after that the sandpaper 60 grit worked really well. So you can see here, this is looking quite smooth now, and I really love the way the band widens out as it goes around the sort of the bends. I reckon that looks great. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I mean, that's what I wanted to happen. I wanted it to look like that, and it's just gone really well. This side doesn't widen out as much because it's a sharper bend. Sorry, can you see that? Yeah, but it's come along. We got rid of that big ridge, you remember there, where we ended the router bit. We've rounded it off. It's not perfect yet, but we need to sand all of this. So that join now is looking, I think, not bad. So if you've used scrapers before, or a lot, then you probably already know how good they are. I never knew. It's only very recently I've started using them, and I had these, well, you can see here, see these grooves here? Hopefully you can see them, lines running down here. That's where the router kind of bumped, tight corner, pretty hard for the router. It was rocking because I had a piece of wood here and all that to try and get it flat. So I've got these deep grooves. I had the same thing on this side, and I was sanding, it wasn't doing any good, and I just started using the scraper. I can even do it with one hand. What I'm just doing, just like this, this curved one. I like to use the curved ones because it doesn't necessarily touch the bits you don't want. And just even with one hand, just doing this is getting rid of it. Now I'm getting a little bit of micro tear out here, which is nothing much, but it's obviously going the wrong direction for the grain, but it just suits me to go this way for this particular, it's the best way to get rid of it. And I can just sand it over later to get the grain smooth again. It's even great for doing these sort of edges here. You just can do it just lightly and maintain the curve. When you're close to something like the fretboard where you don't want to hit the fretboard, you can just scrape the curve in. It works quite well, and it's just getting rid of these lines. As you can see, I'm not using much skill. I'm not even pushing the thing bent like you normally do with the scraper. It's enough just to get the high bits off and smooth this all out. What a fantastic tool these things are. I bought a set of 3. It's got a round one, it's got a square one, and it's got another one that's kind of round at the top and concave or concave at the bottom. Crown Tools, Sheffield, England. Sheffield steel anyway. Really handy. Josco is the brand, but it's basically a flap, sanding paper flap disc, which you can put on a grinder, which I have here. It is 40 grit. Also bought another one that's 80 grit. They're about $8 each or something, I think. So I would like to get one of those saber-tooth things, the metal ones, but funds. Anyway, hoping I can start doing this because it's just chipping out too much, so I need to sand it down. Hopefully this works. Wow, that is way more aggressive and way faster than I thought. Gee whiz. I thought because it's sandpaper, I didn't think it would be that good. I mean, this is hardwood. It's just like, even here, I just touched it. I've got a nick out of it now. It's great, but I'm going to have to be really careful. So I can't see the camera at all. So here's the back of the neck. I've carved it in here a fair bit, so that part fits in to the palm of the hand there quite well. Should be able to reach right down to the 24th fret here fairly easily. So it's looking good there. Done a fair bit here as well, carving this out a little bit. Obviously it's still rough around here, I need to blend it all in, but it's going pretty well. I'm not going to do any more anywhere around here now either. I've gotten pretty close to the fretboard along here now. I'm not going to do any more with a power tool. I actually put it away because I kept thinking, oh, I'll just do this bit, and then you go a little bit more and then just start to take risks. It's not worth it. So I'm just going to start sanding by hand now. I've got myself a soft sponge and I've put some 120 grit on it. I'm going to start using that. Now, you might not be able to see this, but I can feel it and I can kind of see it in certain lights. Big dent just here. I've got a couple of smaller dents on the other side. This is where I've been going along with that sanding disc in it, and I've obviously just twisted a little bit and dug in. I will be able to sand it out, not a problem, but I've been sanding with the sponge, and it's not too quick. It's only 120 grit. I think that because the sponge is flexible, if I'm pushing it all, it dips in and still sands it. So I'm going to switch to a cork block, so I've got something hard to go over that surface, so that I'm hoping that I'll be sanding both sides of that dent without actually going into the dent, and in that way I'll be able to remove it at some stage. That's the theory. Actually, I can see now it's actually smaller already, because I tried sanding it for a while just with the sponge and didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. And that's, yeah, it's shrinking again. Alright, so that's working pretty quickly. I think I might have a crack here. Our crack inspector has had a look at it. What do you think of that? Just check it. Feels a bit rough. Yes, it does. It should be okay. I mean, it's got a lot of supporting timber around it. It shouldn't be cracking. But anyway, I put a bit of very thin super glue on top, and I'm just going to leave it overnight. We'll see how it looks in the morning. Been sanding neck by hand quite a lot now, and I can see why people use maple. It's so silky smooth. In fact, it's so nice that it would be really nice to have a neck completely uncoated in maple, because this is only 120 grit and it's like silk. But you need to coat it because maple will get really dirty. It's very light coloured wood. So yeah, but anyway, the little cracks we had here that I filled with glue appear to be not a problem at the moment. So if you fill this side first. There we go. That got it. Beautiful. Okay, it's done. For the last little bit just here, I was going over it over and over it and I couldn't get it, so I just cheated and used this part here just to scrape like this, just scrape that bit there. So because it's round, it was just getting into the exact spot and scraping it. So there'll be like a little channel about this wide just going through here, and I can kind of feel it. But otherwise you basically have to scrape a huge area down to get, and then level this part down. It's just taking forever. So that's gone now. We've got all that gone. I'll give it another sand over with this, and also do this part where I've had the clamp on, and then that should be okay for now. We'll still give it a final sand before we spray it. Thank you for watching today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more, subscribe to Cheapskate.